Welcome to the Integration Station. I'm MichaudAshley, your host, here to guide you down the rabbit hole into the world of psychoactive plants, frogs, and fungi. Good morning, you beautiful souls, and welcome to the Integration Station. I am MichaudAshley, your host, here with James HinThe today, and many of you may know him as the Grateful Shaman. James is a shaman and a medicine practitioner. He specializes in psilocybin, Bufo, and other plant medicines. He's a sound healer, speaker, writer, ceremonial leader, and has experience leading organizations, including 4 years as a member of an executive leadership team. His coaching programs include leadership development and an addiction treatment program, both blended with plant medicine work. He's also the founder of PSILO Temple, which is all about psychedelics, sound, integration, love, and oneness. This is Oregon's first psilocybin temple and Grateful Shaman Collective. This is Oregon's first 5-MeO DMT church. So we're really excited to have him on the show, share all that's new and good. So whether you know this guy or not, you're going to want to stay tuned for this awesome show. Without further ado, let's dive in.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Welcome, you beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Integration Station. I'm MichaudAshley, your host, here with our special guest, James HinThe, the Grateful Shaman. I know many of you have connected with him in our network, maybe know him from the PSILO Temple or Instagram or from other recordings that we've done here at the Integration Station. But regardless, whether you already know him, you're in for a treat. So definitely stick around. We got lots of topics here, but to start, I'm just going to pass right over to James so he can share his story and a bit about some of the transitions that have been going on.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for having me back. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you. And yeah, speaking of that network, it's given me so many new, beautiful connections across the world. And that's so important for us doing this work. And I always say it all the time, like, we're not competitors because we're not, like, mushrooms and psychedelics aren't a profit-driven machine, right? And like we're collaborators and supporting each other to make sure that we get this medicine and this integration and all this work out to people. And so they know that there's a way out of suffering that hasn't been available for a long time.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it's been available. It just hasn't been really discussed. I think there were so many closeted psychonauts out there. And then even those who were working with them, there was this way of using them recreationally that really took over all these medicinal benefits for a very long time. But now the truth is coming back out. We've gone full circle. The more people are talking out and sharing the benefits and getting curious, and so there's more conversation. It's a wonderful time.
I notice I have a huge majority of my clients are in their like 60s and 70s, like even 80s, and it's many times they've been on SSRIs for 20 years, or try this and try this, and for them it's like, all right, here's something I can try that might actually work. And it's really beautiful to watch those transformations happen. And, I know like Michael Pollan is a big reason for that, and all the other work that everybody's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we just had Keegan on from Mindful Meds. I don't know if you've connected with him yet, but he was just saying that too. Well, we were both in the conversation about it, that, the pharmaceutical industry isn't putting you on SSRIs so that you can come off of them when your chemicals are rebalanced. No, it's to become dependent on them. The withdrawal symptoms coming off of those things are insane, very comparable to that of heroin or some of these other things that are out there that, you know, we all know and collectively understand. It's very difficult to come off, but we don't always say that about psychedelics. We don't about SSRIs or these other pharmaceuticals. So I think it's really important to address here that, you know, this helps. A lot of these psychedelics help with those withdrawal symptoms and stuff like that too, whether it is a pharmaceutical or a street drug like heroin or crack cocaine or meth, anything like that.
Right, and it's really beautiful to see that, you know, and there was just another study that came out where it shows that, you know, psilocybin has the safest drug profile of all drugs, and there's no interactions. And so even if you're on like these large doses of SSRIs, like I've watched people microdosing, like, and tapering down and microdosing to support that, and yeah, like you said, the symptoms are much less, and it's actually like eye-opening to how much those medications weren't actually doing anything. They were just, you know, coming out of your bank account every month, which is exactly what you said. That's what the pharmaceutical company would like. And also to touch on addiction too, I was thinking about the other day, every single addict that I've worked with or alcoholic is sober. And that's not just, hey, you came and did a plant medicine and now boom, I'm sober. Those people came and did some type of medicine and then focused on making those changes in their lives. They gave them this perspective of, oh, okay, I can change this, I can do these. And then doing that integration work has allowed them to maintain a healthy sobriety where with microdosing and all those things too. So there's so much potential for it to be like a cure-all, quote unquote, but also remembering that it's not the way that it's sold to us in the pharmaceutical model, where like, just take this pill and it'll make you better, right? It's take the medicine, 50% of it, and then the other 50% is integration, right? As you are very well versed about.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important point too, is that, you know, psychedelics are great at showing you what work is yours to do. You know, they'll unnumb a lot of those things that you've been numbing for a long time. They'll help you readdress like patterns and learned behaviors and even thoughts that have been there for a long time. But it's up to you ultimately to take that understanding, take that knowledge and do something about it. And they will lead the way. They'll show you what happened. Like, it's like a tarot card reading. You got your past, your present, and future. You're going to see it all. But it's up to you to make those choices. And they actually liberate you in order to make those decisions, because in our culture, we don't want to make a lot of decisions. You know, in schools, it's A, B, C, D. Which one do you want? It's not really think about outside of the box, or here, fill in this answer with whatever you want. It's all programmed in. It has to be a certain answer or something that they're looking for. But in the real world and in like this actual reality is that, you know, when we liberate ourselves from that, it's like, this is the out of the box thinking. This is the way to get yourself out of whatever prison you've created for yourself.
Right. And like, I was a heroin addict when I was 16 till 19, and then I went into AA, and I spent about 12 years actively in AA, and then I struggled with mental health and found psychedelics and really started to change and heal. And now it's been 18 years since I walked into those AA rooms. I'm no longer an active member, but I'm actively involved in addiction. I have an addiction program that I'm rolling out where it integrates plant medicine and all of these other things that we're doing. But this idea of total abstinence and like, all right, I'm an alcoholic, so I don't go to the bar. Like, yeah, that's pretty smart. If you're a newly sober, don't go to the bar. Yeah. But what psychedelics give us is they help us heal those things that we're treating with alcoholism. Because if you take the alcohol away and you give that alcoholic heroin, they're going to be a heroin addict, right? If you take the heroin away and give them meth, they're going to be a meth addict, because those things feed that avoidance or whatever we're trying to self-medicate with. And what I found with psychedelics is being an addict before, what I found with psychedelics is it's helped me heal those things that I was treating with drugs. And now I no longer need drugs to feel better. And it's versus this idea of like, completely avoiding it, or avoiding bars, or avoiding that. And I think really trying to get away from that. And I have another perspective on AA that we can continue to talk about.
Yeah, I love that. And what I want to add may even be that very same conversation. But yeah, Bill Wilson, one of the co-founders of AA, he said that abstinence of alcohol or any substance isn't actually what's going to get you to stay sober. There was this 13th step, or maybe it was the first step. Who knows what got rewritten when they created those 12 steps and, made it more religious, or, whatever they've ended up doing when they organized it. But one of the things that he was discussing with Carl Jung was this use of psychoactives in order to help you find the spirituality and finally free yourself, this liberation that happens. I remember, I stayed away. Actually, no, I'll tell you guys the truth. When I first quit drinking, a year later, I quit everything at the time, including making money, because my job was in the hospitality and tourism industry. When I went back, that's when I relapsed. I held out for a very, very long, or what felt like forever, but it obviously wasn't. It was within a year period, but it felt like a very long time because I still hadn't fully dealt with that or been in that environment. And it was just so long that I eventually did relapse. It was quick. And then, I went along my way. But I've since been in those environments and been completely fine. I've been DD for many people. I've done, even gone into old biker bars where they're open all hours of the night. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to smoke this joint for hours on end. The joint lasted me forever.
Right.
I'd get in a conversation with something that felt uncomfortable, and I was able to just relight that, put it out because I didn't want smoke everywhere, but also, have that thing for myself to, chill and be in the moment. It wasn't, of course, the best environment, but, had to experience.
My question, and I'm writing about this now, my question is, why only Bill? Okay, why only Bill Wilson? So when Bill Wilson created AA, and now we are, 100, almost 90 years later, right? And there's 10 million people in 12-step programs. It sparked other 12-step programs. It's a beautiful program. It works. If you're trying to get off of drugs and alcohol, it works. But what Bob said was, who's the other co-founder, said AA is spiritual kindergarten. We're dealing with spiritual kindergarten here. And that's very much ignored in AA. And same with the 11 steps, so through prayer and meditation. I tell you, 12 years in AA, I might have heard people talk about meditation a handful of times. And so I think we've kind of lost our way there. So my question of why only Bill? So we follow Bill Wilson's program to a T. If you have to drink, help another addict or another alcoholic. Call your sponsor, do this. We even go work the steps, right? Go to meetings, give fellowship, give back. We even go as far to say in the book, it says, if you do all these things and you don't stay sober, you're constitutionally incapable of being honest with yourself. And it's you, it's not us, right? But the one thing that we don't do, even though we follow it to a T, religiously, is when Bill got sober, he was given a combination of henbane and belladonna, which are hallucinogenic plants. Now, he had been given that before and nothing happened. But this time, he was ready, right? This time, when you see how this medicine works, it brings people into our lives and it puts us in the place we need to be for the message that we have. So his friend Ebby was talking about God and spirituality and trying to get him to join his Christian-based sobriety type thing. And Bill wasn't really, Bill was turned off by that, really. But just that conversation about the potential of God Then he received this treatment, and the treatment back in the day was like it was like $300 a day to stay at this place with this doctor that had this combination where he was like, we'll get rid of your alcoholism completely. And then so he was given these plants, and he had a white light experience. He felt the presence of God, and he started AA, and he's been sober ever since. And so for me, when I'm working with an addict or an alcoholic, one of the first things I'm doing is plant medicine. Like, you need a catalyst for change. You need a spiritual experience, a connection, and new perspective. And so what I find is when we start with that, many times people stay sober and they, quit a 25-year meth addiction the next day. But then they struggle to, make it. You got to do the integration right on the other end. But yeah, why only Bill? That's my question for AA. And it's going to be met with, that question is met with, well, closed-mindedness, in my opinion. But
when they push it under the rug, I have worked with clients that really struggled to stay sober, and then they were kicked out of AA because they resorted to mushrooms. And this was in the US. It's crazy that even happens. Why are you going to kick somebody out for still trying, but it's considered not being sober? Well, obviously you don't know the history of AA. But that's the closed-mindedness. But I think the reason why it was oppressed in the beginning was because they needed a little bit of support to make it go as big as it did. And so I think some of the people who came in, like religious leaders and things to sponsor, then it changed, and some things maybe disappeared.
Or when Bill had decades of sobriety, 20-something years, he started to experiment with LSD because he was severely depressed. I went through that. I was severely depressed, but I was sober, right? I was going to meetings, going to program. And then I developed chronic pain in my face. And so the doctor gave me Dilaudid, right? Remember, I was a heroin addict. So I start taking Dilaudid, and everyone's cool with that in AA. It's doctor prescribed. But then I was like, hey, Dilaudid is making me sick. It's making me crave it. I'm like, I don't want this. I'm itching myself. I don't want it. I'm going to start smoking cannabis for pain. And when I started smoking cannabis for pain, I got dropped by my sponsor, and 2 sponsors in a row. And they were like, yeah, that doesn't vibe what we're doing. And so, but that's not to say that's the whole, my sponsor who has passed away is my life's hero. Your told me, what's your intention? Is your intention to smoke that weed and party and get high, or is your intention to smoke the weed to relieve your chronic pain? Well, if your intention is to relieve the pain, how is it any different than any other medication that is okay by AA standards? And for them to be okay with Dilaudid over cannabis is just shows how lost we are, I think, in that program.
Or how much that industry's really taken over the psyche of people in an unconscious way. Through the masses, that mass psychosis. After School did a great presentation on that. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to hear a little bit, well, so many things. I got a whole list here. But when it's just coming to just AA and your experiences, what have you found works? You were talking about prayer and meditation and how they're not really doing that part there. Prayer is, chanting's there, but it's not spiritual. It's still confined. And I'm just I'm curious, what did you find worked? What did you find didn't work? Because there are obviously some people that succeed in this, and for short term and for community, I think it's great. So yeah, you invested a lot of time into this program. Please.
Yeah. AA saved my life. It introduced me to men that knew how to be productive members of society, respect people, respect women, respect themselves, taught me how to be a good dad. And so when you go into the program, you're kind of everyone's pretty broken down, right? And so there's the 12 steps. And the 12 steps are something you work through with a sponsor, and that's really beneficial. Everybody could use the 12 steps. It's okay, gaining self-awareness, doing an inventory to make sure I didn't offend someone today, or do I know amends, or did I maintain my self-care? Step 11 is sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, right? And so when I mentioned step 11, there would be jokes. It's step 11 meaning I'm out of here. It was never emphasized. When meditation alone could be the most profound, many times people are I need mushrooms. I'm all right, just meditate for a couple weeks and then we'll go from there. And then I'll get a call my anxiety's gone. I've just been meditating. What's going on? And I'm like, well, meditation is the key. It's healing.
Medication. Yeah.
Like, do I still need mushrooms? I'm like, oh yeah, you can still use mushrooms. But yeah, so I OA a lot for sure, and I've sponsored guys, and I my work in the future, and I'm working right now with addiction, but in the future I plan to build a detox and a treatment center that integrates plant medicines, and not only plant medicines but integration work. So that's daily meditation. Microdosing is huge. Daily meditation, the fellowship, filling your social battery, having community. We evolved in communities. Almost like 99.9% of our existence as humans has been in shamanic tribes, right? And so now that we're out of shamanic tribes, we have unprecedented addiction and alcoholism, anxiety, depression, panic, high blood pressure, and all of these things. All those things I just listed, don't worry, Big Pharma has a solution for it if you pay them, and so it's just become such. We've just become so disconnected from who we are as people. We all evolved from shamans, and when we used to regularly meet in circles and play music and chant and know each other, and look at how we treat childbirth in this country. The mom is like full of Pitocin, like get this baby out so we can move the next person in and charge another $6,000, $10,000, $12,000, whatever it is. And then, all right, if you had a C-section 3 days, but if not, you're out of here in 1 day, go home. And then like, oh, by the way, your husband has to go back to work because we don't really pay you any help for, paternal leave or anything like that, paternity leave. And so back then, like mom would get people, other women helping her. And if she had to rest, other women could breastfeed the baby because we all ate the same things and we all knew that there wasn't poison in our food back then. And go in Walmart especially, but go in any store and look at the baby formula. Palm oil granules, canola oil, like we can go deep into that. Like we're just being poisoned from the beginning.
Nestle killed a lot of children because of formula, especially when they started exporting it out. And I remember reading about women around the world who were giving birth and things like that. And one of the things that I both found hilarious, but also so powerful, was kids act up. Well, these women, all they had to do was lift up their shirt and like... And kids are all like, calm down. Go to their spots, pay attention. It's like any woman could do that. That is power, and that is like.
I think that still works for me these days. Do you want to calm me down? Just, okay. But and if you look at other cultures, like ayahuasca is pretty common for young children to engage in ayahuasca ceremonies and Santo Daime whenever the kid starts feeling interest, like. So we have no problem giving a kid Zoloft, a suicidal teenager Zoloft.
As young as 8 years old, they're prescribing it, but a lot of kids 12 and up are on it. We were just looking up those stats recently.
Right, and we know that microdosing is incredibly safer and much more beneficial. But if you want to talk about giving kids microdosing, then we're going to have the, town coming after us with pitchforks and torches.
Same thing happened with cannabis. The kids who were having seizures and stuff, and then CBD or cannabis would help. And, they really had to fight, You have neighbors and parents and so much. Like, I'm a very alternative person, and I still feel like I give in some areas, but being around my family or my friends, it's really true what childhood what Ram Dass said about you think you're spiritually enlightened, huh? Go spend a week with your family. You do that. You realize, but also, there's that feeling of being alone. I was referring to what I do as drugs because I knew it would be words that people would relate to. That's what they're talking about, and I was trying to say like these are safe. Nobody would listen to me. It's crazy that there's still that kind of stigma. But this is what I love about my life now, is that this community is being built, and it's something you're doing too, James. Like building this community with people who are opening up and really getting it and seeing these wonderful results and stuff. Like, this stuff isn't to be scared of. What's actually safer than most groceries is what we're taught to fear today, and it's crazy. Right. Let's ostracize them, burn them at the stake.
Right. And I was getting my hair cut a few months ago, and I was talking to the person about psilocybin mushrooms, and he was saying that he had PTSD from he's a veteran and stuff, and he was like, yeah, well, I'm really glad they're really because talking about Oregon, I'm really glad they're really strictly regulating this stuff, because we can't just have people going around doing mushrooms and I'm like and doing crazy stuff. And I was like, oh, how do you feel about alcohol? Because I'm like, there's people running around, go downtown tonight, Friday night, Saturday night, there's people falling on the ground crying, skirts pulled up over their head, passed out on the floor, fighting with each other, cops everywhere. If everyone in that room was doing mushrooms, there'd be no cops, there'd be no fighting, there'd be a lot of crying, but beautiful crying and hugging. Right? So yeah,
instead of there's a lot of abuse that happens from alcohol, things that people wouldn't expect to do. They call it spirits for a reason. You're literally volunteering yourself to let in these spirits to kind of control you. Why? So you get a little bit extra confidence, or why? So you can numb a part of you that was already hurt by that thing that now is going to cycle out in other ways. When I think about some of, the times when I was a bartender sober, it was really, really hard for me, and probably one of the reasons why I did relapse, because I was realizing, why am I serving this poison to somebody when what they need is a hug? And I felt this dark night of the soul, because it's I can't hug them because I need my job, I need the money. I'm a very huggy person, but it's not the same as consoling and being hey, let's go meditate together, let's go do some kundalini yoga, let's eat some mushrooms, and there wasn't that openness either. But what there was me pouring a bottle and oppressing myself and what I really truly wanted to say and how I truly wanted to be there for that person. And
yeah, and you can look at the top leading causes of death, and alcohol is definitely related to all of them. Alcohol abuse, and it's alcohol equals increased domestic violence, suicide, everything. There's not one part of your body that is vibes well with alcohol. It all struggles to process it in every system, but it flows freely everywhere. And all these towns around here in Oregon, Oregon voted Measure 109, the voters said, we want access to psilocybin. And so while they're rolling it out in a medical practice, which we can spend the whole podcast talking more about that, but
yeah, we got that drama here too.
Yeah, right. But it's all these towns, more rural towns, voted to restrict psilocybin services in their cities. But go to every one of those towns, and there's a bar in every corner. There's liquor everywhere. And we know that alcohol kills, and there's signs all over town here in Eugene that say, please don't drive drunk, right? And you ask why. A lot of these times I find myself asking these so blatantly obvious things as to why, and it all comes back 100% of the time to profit, to money, because
follow the money,
profits to be made, right? And if we go into the Measure 109 discussion, that's not more evident than anywhere else. It's very evident in that as well. And I even I write kind of poem and spoken word about it, and just basically talking about how we're the psilocybin advisory board here in Oregon has treated psilocybin as this dangerous pharmaceutical, but it's not. But they're treating it that way because they've been pumping us with dangerous pharmaceuticals for 100 years. And so it's interesting to see this bubble here of, we were training all these people to be facilitators, and we have all these rules, and you have to track your cubensis only, right? Because we need to restrict it to just the manufacturers that line our pockets. Cubensis only, and you have to tag each one and test the psilocybin content. anyone, if they would have put people on the board that actually knew about psilocybin and how it works, then they would have not wasted millions of dollars of taxpayers' money and rolled out a system that is contrary to what the taxpayers want. I always say it, like 60% of Lane County here in Oregon voted for psilocybin therapy, but can 60% of Lane County pay $3,500 to go do mushrooms in a doctor's office? Like, is that even helpful? Like, okay, some people might feel more comfortable with that, but where's the music? When I do ceremony, I have like 30 musical instruments that I all use as tools, and we have these shamanic, we do shamanic journey, and we're tapping into the shamanic energy, and we're channeling, and we're healing that. And then there's things like entity attachments and soul retrievals, and all of that is just completely ignored, even though it's been around tens of thousands of years longer than our minimal idea of what Western medicine is.
Yeah, which is still pretty new. And any drug that anybody's on, you got to realize this is still pretty new, probably within your lifetime. It hasn't been tested to see the long-term effects because you are the guinea pig, like, for most of these, you know.
And the FDA will say it's safe. They have 20,000 drugs that the FDA has approved and said it's safe. Okay,
but follow that money too. Who runs
the FDA? Yeah. Robert I don't know how to pronounce his name. Robert Calais. Well, he worked at the FDA, and then he quit the FDA, and then he went and made millions of dollars with Big Pharma, and then now he's running the FDA again. So, like, yeah, obviously, that's why our food is poison, because all those people are connected and profiting off of it, running it. And, you know, it used to sound like a conspiracy theory, but now, like, it's getting more and more and more obvious. Have you heard about how they make canola oil? Like, just like looking into that will blow your mind and make you think. Like, I took my kids yesterday to the store, or Friday to the store, to get popcorn for movie night, and we look at these healthy brands. Both had canola oil.
The healthy brands. Why? I know, that drives me nuts too.
It's corn, like, yeah. You know. And so I think there's
like that you bring that up, because yeah, even on the healthy things, I have my son read the labels too. Like, he's not the reader, but he knows to, like, look or hand it to somebody else to look and read them out. And it's like, if they don't know how to pronounce something, you don't take it from them. And if you are able to, like, if I'm reading it out and saying that it's good, but if we don't know what something is, we always Google it. So then he learns how to Google what the ingredients are, and he can talk into it, and he's like, oh, I get the chance with the phone, okay. You know, we found these ways to make it work. But I want to I know you're in the States, and you've been talking a lot about, you know, you get to you can pay money for pharmaceuticals, or you can, you know, pay for, you know, your membership in the church, or to, like, do these kinds of retreats or ceremonies and stuff. There's a choice. Up here in Canada, I really want to express that free healthcare is not free healthcare. You know, this is an illusion. If you want actual healthcare instead of sick care, then you need to pay for it regardless. You know, get a naturopath, get a nutritionist, get somebody who knows what they're doing. You know, go on a retreat. You know, find these medicines and just work with them. And you know, find somebody who has a little bit of experience too. I think is an asset. Building up that community over time really does become the main focus of life after a while, I think.
Well, and if you're having health problems, right, you have a soul, a mind, your gut works as a second brain in terms of serotonin. You've got all these systems working together. So if you're having health problems, why would you go to just a Western medical doctor and take 100% of what they're saying? Like, they only have that perspective. Whereas Western medicine is great. Like, it's
in an emergency. Yeah.
It works. Like, if I got my shoulder repaired, right? I can't do that with sound, but, like, we are whole people. And so we're become so over-reliant, and then the Western medical approach is anything outside of this is wrong and pseudoscience, right? And so it's a very dangerous game when you're trying to fit a medicine like psilocybin that helped us evolve. So my Stone Date shirt.
Yes, I love it. Well, to talk about that too. It's on my list.
And so, what we're trying to do here is turn that around and change the way we look at our health, because all things have a spiritual root, whether they're presenting as physical or not.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to just cut to our sponsors now so they can share what they're up to, and we can all just take a minute to digest all of this wealth of information here as well. And we'll have you right back. Okay, James?
Yeah, perfect.
Bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to save the VCBC at gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Growing your own cannabis is easier than you think. Whether you're growing for recreational or medical purposes, BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. From the standard 4-plant recreational systems to the latest cutting-edge hydroponic equipment, BMA can customize your package and do it at discount prices. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville and ask us for a free estimate. Or call 613-967-9888 and we will give you an estimate over the phone. The only way to go.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, James. We would discuss so much. I think when it comes to addictions, you're definitely that top guy. But I want to hear more about what it is that you're doing now, because you have stretched beyond just doing ceremonies as the Grateful Shaman and sharing music, sound healing. But now you actually went like the religious organization path, which allows you to give medicine without the legal reprimands, whatever I'm trying to say. So I'd love to hear more about this, about the temple, about everything you guys are doing, and then also, maybe some of that process and the decision making along the way of why you went this route.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to start. So for about 2 to 3 years, I've been operating as an LLC, Grateful Shaman Company, where we've been doing ceremonies and retreats and one-on-one healing and also sound baths. And so one of the unique aspects of the way that I do ceremony, even one-on-ones and groups, is I have the full sound bath. I have all the instruments and everything, and we really get deep into clearing blockages and helping you with the sound. The sound is so powerful. Like when you have a stuck blockage in your heart chakra, we can play the sound right into it and it clears it so easily. And in psychedelic experiences, and people often ask me, why should I have a guide? Like I can just do it on my own. I'm a huge fan of doing it on your own. Terrence McKenna, 5 grams in 5 dry grams in silent darkness, beautiful. But many times when you do a large dose and you encounter trauma, or you encounter things that you didn't expect, or maybe trauma that you didn't remember until just now, having someone there, you can get stuck in that for hours, in that loop of just like, oh, I wish this would end, and the trauma. And so when someone's there, like when I'm with you, I'm working on you energetically and talking and holding and things like that to allow it to break through that, and so we can go so much more deeper. And so when Measure 109 passed here in Oregon 2 years ago, the voters voted for it, and we were kind of sold like, hey, this is going to give access to people to this medicine in a safe way, and be available. And as it rolled out, it became very clear that the advisory board was uninterested in, the priority was not getting medicine to the people and getting medicine to people that need it. The priority was, how can we further our psilocybin businesses? Because many of them have admitted to having personal psilocybin business interests, and even the chair had to step down because of it, conflicts of interest. And so there was a beautiful measure put forth by a lawyer, Joe Dennison. Sorry, but anyway, he was put this amendment to say, allow for religious freedom, like religious practitioners to hold ceremony, because ceremony we can charge much less and bring more people together, and it's really beautiful, and it's community, and it's healing. And it got shot down. And once that got shot down, it confirmed for me that profit seems to be the profit, and restricted access to feed profit is the main driver behind what they're doing. And not surprising, it's a Western medical approach, right? And so once that happened, I decided that I'm no longer on board with Measure 109, and I focused on providing equitable access. And so so what I did is I created PSILO Temple. So PSILO, it's an acronym. So it's also short, the first part of psilocybin. But we don't just believe in psilocybin, we believe in all psychedelic medicine. And so the P stands for psychedelics, the S, sound, I for integration, L for love, and O for oneness. And we chose temple as an ode to the most ancient structures around the world. Has all been temples in some way, from the Mayans to Göbekli Tepe and all these monolithic sites in Turkey and Malta, etc. And so it's an ode to this ancient medicine and the ancient practices of psilocybin and other psychedelics. And so we're a nonprofit religious organization. We're a part of the North American Association of Visionary Churches. We are very much involved in helping support other churches and other practitioners in the community. Like I said, I see it as a collaboration more than a competition. And so what we're doing with PsiloTemple is we have temple service. So every second and fourth Wednesday of the month, we get together, we take medicine. And this is very different. I have a specific way to deliver the medicine that is a shorter acting than if you would eat it. So if you eat mushrooms, you're going to spend 4 to 6 hours kind of just out of it, and they're having your experience. With the way that we do it with this tincture that I've created, you drop right in and you get it out within 2 hours, and it's never really overpowering. It's more of like a buzz or just like a gentle relationship that you start. And the idea is so that you can start to build a relationship with psilocybin. If you're poor or if you're rich, doesn't matter. Come to the services as a member. Membership is $44 for the year for the basic, like just access to medicine. That gives you a training. It gives you a certificate as the member of the church. So if you're outside of Oregon, you have this certificate saying you're a member of a religious freedom operating church, temple. And but we also continue to do ceremonies. So we have an offering for those who would like the more peak experience, would like a one-on-one experience on 40 acres in the woods, right? And, we did that this weekend, and it snowed and it was beautiful. Or like weekend retreats where we have psilocybin and then also other medicines that, you know, are more extensive, and we spend more time with you on integration and working through things and preparing you and clearing your body, clearing your mind the way that they do. They have it on shamanically for thousands of years, like with other plant medicines like Sananga. And so the idea is to provide a place where people can come, be part of a community, learn and engage in sound and dance, and that's those are our events with medicine. There's also no obligation to take medicine. Like, we have dances sober, like that's cool. Like, there's nothing wrong with, like, we don't believe that you have to be taking psychedelics all the time. And it's funny because I get asked all the time, like, hey, we should do mushrooms together. I'm like, people are surprised when I'm like, yeah, I don't really do a lot of psychedelic. I'm like pretty much sober, you know, like, because psychedelics have given me amazing gift of being confident and happy with myself as I am, and I've learned to live that way. And all those years in AA, all those years in therapy, and I never was able to attain that until it forced me to heal myself. And then I learned about the integration practices. So we have a Monday night integration group where we do integration support group and breath work. We have a Sunday during the day, mid-morning psychedelics and sobriety support group for those of us who are in sobriety and maybe either have been shunned from AA or are still in AA and wanting to bridge that gap. And then online integration and lots of other events, sound baths, and coming out with more and more as we roll. We'll eventually have a conference, and we're going to have a summer solstice celebration out in the land here, and really bringing back not just medicine, but those other things, sound, spirituality, integration, love, oneness, back into our communities, back into our cultures, because that's what we provide.
Yeah, the cyclical cycles too. I think you aligning with the seasons in that way is so important. You know, these are the traditional holidays. My family and friends, they may not get all the psychedelic stuff yet, those back home, but they are getting the cycles. You know, I think I've enforced moon cycles and seasons so much in all these years that it started. You know, it takes a while. Right. Like getting a toddler to eat good food. Yeah.
Try
it 13 times or so.
Right. Yeah, toddlers and eating, I give up on that. I'll just let them tell me when they're hungry at this point. Like, here you go, and then they seem to eat more. But my 5-year-old is just like, I'm like, what do you want for dinner? Oatmeal. What do you want for breakfast? Oatmeal. Lunch? Oatmeal. So yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, to transition from that into like so we're set up like we meet the IRS's 14-point guidelines for a church. Like, we're set up legitimately as a church, and we call ourselves a temple, and it's about being able to freely use this medicine and build a relationship with it without having to go to someone that is making profit of it. The more hands in these things, like the way it's being rolled out, where you have to have it tested and grown, and that just keeps driving the price up. We saw it happen with cannabis. And for me, I'm 100% committed to, and tobacco, right. And think about I was talking about that the other day, when people from the US take Hape, like the tobacco snuff, they have a really hard time a lot of times. It's because our relationship with tobacco are these like profit deadly plants like that are created and mixed with a bunch of chemicals to kill us, versus like Nicotina rustica or like things that are actually plant medicines.
It's more potent, which scares a lot of people too, especially if they quit smoking. But the way that you take them and that intention and the spirit that goes into it, this is really ancient medicine. Like, it's still on the medicine wheel, you know, today in Native American tribes. It's because there is this reason, but now we're not legally allowed to grow it. It's grown in radioactive fertilizer with over 21 different chemicals. And then they add to it after that to make sure that it tastes good and that the smoke is white and that it burns a certain way that marks their branding. This is insane.
And then they put a filter on it.
A filter. Oh, God.
Yeah, at least you're getting the filter, and then your kids are getting the unfiltered smoke.
Yes. Oh, thanks for adding that. It sucks. Like, these harsh truths, they suck to hear, but it's needed to be said.
Yeah, it's changing. It's shifting. I'm committed that people like you and I are moving this movement forward, and we have so many great, amazing people joining on board, and it's great to see more like influential people like Gabor Mate and like Joe Rogan and Paul Stamets, like talking about Graham Hancock. Graham Hancock has been roasted his whole career, and guess what? He's been right like 20 years ahead of his time. And but he's still, you go on his Wikipedia and it says he's a pseudoscientist. But it's like, well, if you're a scientist and you look at what he's doing, there's no way you would call him a pseudoscientist, because he's looking to try to disprove theories. That's the scientific method, right?
Yeah.
And so why are we meeting Graham Hancock with this? Like,
yeah.
Sorry,
best. I was just going to say the best scientists have done both, written books on both ends. Terence McKenna did that, and Stephen Hawking. It's like they have this one theory, and then they have the theory to disprove it as well. That means that they know their shit. Right.
That's what I do. I want to know if I'm wrong. I come up with an idea, like I'm looking to prove myself wrong. Because if I'm right, awesome. Like I'm gonna communicate it, but I'm not gonna start spewing shit just because I believe it. Like I believe in the scientific method. I'm a psychologist. I was, did research and did a master's and all that stuff. Like I believe in it truly, but again, the closed-minded stuck to this like idea that we have to think one way, and so going back. So now transitioning into this and stepping back for a second into. It's not just about psychedelics. I don't want people to look at PsiloTemple and be like, oh, it's just a bunch of people taking mushrooms and getting high. Like, it's not about that. It's education. We have a whole education and research branch plan where we're going to be publishing. We're going to be doing longitudinal microdosing studies, and we're going to have a research institute. And when it comes to the other aspects of it, it's meditation. It's prayer, if that's good for you. It's exercise. It's breath work. It's qigong, like yoga, meditation, Reiki. I said meditation twice on purpose. Acupuncture, meditation. And so, like, all of those practices are not new. They've persisted for thousands of years. And speaking of things persisting for 1,000 years, we'll come to stoned ape theory. And so if we had to have a sacred text, like our Bible, it would be Food of the Gods, because stoned ape theory says that, and we believe in shamanism as the core. And so stoned ape theory says that, psilocybin was the contributor to the development of shamanism, to the birth of shamanism, to where we were walking along the plains all of a sudden from being in the trees, and we're following herds, and we're eating meat, and we're cooking our meat, which grows our brains for sure, but something else is at play. We pick up the psilocybin mushroom and we eat it, and then boom, spirituality, synesthesia. I can name colors to things and smells, and we don't know how language evolved. Like the great Noam Chomsky just says like, it just happened, And so I think it evolved. If you've been in a mushroom experience with other people, when one person starts moaning or chanting, everyone's feeling it. Oh, that specific like mushroom moan. How easily could that over millions of years evolve into language? It seems pretty straightforward. And so, yeah, stoned ape, some people call it stoned ape hypothesis, but I think it's, to me, it's as strong as Darwin's theory of how we evolved. It really fits in well with, especially if you have worked with the medicine and have been a participant of working with the medicine. It becomes pretty evident that it's a major part of our DNA and who we are.
Yeah. Well, I remember going in and ordering that book just from the local bookstore, and it had to be special order. They weren't sharing that shit. And then I was like, call it up every day. Is it there yet? Is it? And then I finally go and she's like, this must be a really good book. I'm like, yeah, you need to get like a bunch more copies. But yeah, it's so great. It fills in a lot of gaps. And, you know, I really did love history, but I also realized that it was his story. And I had a great teacher that really helped me see that. I went to a Catholic school, so I found some teachers that, you know, that could really work with me. There was a lot that like would dismiss me, or, you know, I got in a lot of trouble, but there were a few that really stuck out. And one of them, you know, really did help me understand that and have a love for history, understanding these kinds of patterns and how things repeat themselves. And this one story, you know, the stoned ape theory, I feel it filled a lot of gaps for me. And I did have the psychedelic experience, so that definitely helps, but it's not essential to read this book either, because I've handed it off to many people who haven't touched, you know, and most of them are like, yeah, that's interesting. But that, like, you know, the ones who get it really get it. And if you know history, you'll see where it fills in these gaps. And I totally got it with the humming too. As soon as you did that, I just like, my mind started going crazy, remembering all those times I've done that.
Yeah. I'm writing more about that too. But yeah, I've got a million article and book ideas. It's just finding the time to write them out. But
that's how I did my books, is through articles. If you write the articles, then you have a consistent writing schedule and deadlines, and then you take it all and you send it to an editor to create it into a book.
Yeah, I'll start doing that.
Yeah.
I was at this local retreat center just for like a getaway. You know, when I do a lot of medicine work, I go find hot springs and I just spend a day or two by myself, you know, decompressing, meditating. I walked into the gift shop and there it was, this one copy, Food of the Gods, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And it was right next to the Psychedelics Explorer's Guide by Fadiman. And so I bought it and I brought it to the register, and the girl at the register was like, oh, I've never read this book, but I've heard about it. And I started, you know, talking about stoned ape theory, and she's like, you know, it's really interesting. I'm microdosing right now. And I'm like, me too. And she's like, oh, the mushrooms brought us together. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, for sure. You know, it does that. And so I bought the other copy of the McKenna books so I could read while I was up there. And yeah, I feel like every time I read it, I realize something new. He was an incredibly brilliant man. And his brother wasn't as a prolific speaker, but just as brilliant in terms of the work he's doing. Now he's opening the McKenna Institute, and where they're going to be doing training and things like that. So I'm really glad that his legacy is being carried on through his brother. Because when they wrote that book, psilocybin, they were like, hey, any 10-year-old with basic science can grow their own mushrooms, and that changed the world. You know? Yeah. Changed my world.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, Dennis McKenna's doing a lot of amazing things. I think he's better known and better speaking now than ever before, but it's because he's had so much practice, and he did a great job really keeping that work afloat. And he was even responsible for some of the stuff that Terence McKenna was doing too. You know, they really were close. They did a lot of work together. You know, a lot of passions where they're different. I think in studies is that Dennis McKenna really went for the pharmacology aspects of it.
Right.
He probably
Terence could hold a room like no other. Like, and he had this way of talking and these words that he would come up with that you'd be like, what does that mean? But you know, it just made sense in context. You know, and I just love listening to him talk. And yeah, of course, you know, like he died, so he kind of, you know, when gets a little more attention. I think.
Did he though? Like honestly, he lived on. Yeah,
he put on to me. I know that.
Yeah, he's living on through all of us. His photons are going into like every. But yeah, he really tapped into the internet world. Like he knew that it could be a scary thing, this technology, but he also knew it was happening anyway. And I think he made peace with that. And now it's this vessel for him to continue living on and expanding the minds of people all over the world. Right. It's pretty great. I'm curious, James, you keep coming back to meditation. How long do you meditate in a day? And how did you learn how to do it?
Every morning I do about 15 minutes. And then that's sit down. And so this is what I tell my clients. I say, I'm not going to tell you like what to do or rules or things like that. I'm going to share with you best practices. But the one non-negotiable, if you're working with me, is you got to meditate. And it's got to be in the morning, sit down and meditate for 15 minutes. Most people say, I can't do that. I've had someone cry at 10 minutes, right? But you will be able to. Like, go back 5,000 years and tell someone like, hey, can you sit still for 15 minutes and not think? And they were like, well, that's what I was doing when you interrupted me. So I've been here for 3 hours. So, it was nothing 15 minutes. Now it's like, oh, I can't do it. And so that should be a sign. Our natural state is to just be. And so 15 minutes in the morning, and then I call like everything else is supplemental self-care. And so when I go to the gym, I work out, I do these 45-minute like guided workouts with at F45. It's a beautiful place. And for 45 minutes, I don't think about anything else. For 45 minutes, I quiet my mind. And when Abraham Hicks talks about meditation, it's all about just quieting your mind. It doesn't have to be anything beyond that. Just slow it down, be in the moment. It's the only place I go where I don't think about anything else. So I consider that meditation as well. I also spend time in the sauna and stuff. So like all the self-care there's so much self-care. Breath work might not work for you, right? So yoga might. Or pranayama breathing. Like there's so many different ways to meditate and to do it. And it's about finding what's good for yourself. But if we start with that morning of like 15 minutes, just sit there and breathe and like start your day, your life will change. On a cellular level, you'll be healthier, you'll be happier. There's even studies with happy lights. Like I got one right here. Light therapy is as effective as SSRIs. And so there's so many things we can do to cure depression and anxiety, and meditation is probably the fastest acting and the least expensive and the least negative side effects.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And all these things that you're mentioning, the breath work, the meditation, the chanting, all that, I didn't know how to do any of it until I found Kundalini Yoga. It was that one practice that included all the other practices, and maybe even one of the reasons why integration work is, where I found myself in the end, it was that integration of all of it together that gave me meditation that actually freed me. The psychedelics were great, but the integration work for me came from that yoga practice, which for you sounds like it's working out. When you work out, you can focus on your breath, and then you focus on just observing the thoughts and letting them empty. You're not attaching to anything. And that really helps too, I think, when it comes to addiction, is if you can do this in your mind, not attached to any thought, then guess what? You're going to be less attached to any substance to help you numb all those thoughts that you've been oppressing.
Right. I heard something the other day too with breath work. The presence of oxygen is the lack of disease, is the absence of disease. So like oxygenating your body, releasing that DMT is so incredibly helpful. We do breath work every Monday. If I do a retreat, usually I'll dose with psilocybin, and then we'll do like at least one round of breath work, either before or right after, it's incredible what it does. It brings you right down grounded and brings you into your experience. And so that's what I try to focus on. It's like all the shamanism says that there's a spiritual root to everything, but shamanism is not the only way to heal it. It's one way. And so for me in my practice, I take from all over. Like, look at my instruments. Like I have a didgeridoo here. I've got a Native American flute, a buffalo drum, kochi chimes from Japan, fruity box from India. Like taking from all these practices, all these cultures, all the things that are beautiful and work, and even religions. At the root of all religion, it's the same, right? Love, connection, spirituality. But then it's corrupted by individuals that all of a sudden, you need to pay us 10% of your salary because to access this, right? And so yeah, I think those self-care practices, and that's why I say medicine, psilocybin is 50% medicine, ceremony, 50% integration. Like if you're just taking ceremony, you're not going to benefit. You will, but not in the way that, not healthy changes to where we talked about, where you go from I'm an addict that no longer is an addict, like a cured addict. And the idea of that in AA is like, oh, you're never cured.
You're an addict forever. Just like you're going to be on SSRIs forever.
Right.
You know, there are a little commonalities here that maybe some of the same forces are at play. Mm-hmm. But there are benefits to all of it. You know, there is no good or bad. There's finding what's right for you and also finding the truth. Right. You know, which kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah, and that's, as a religious organization, I mean, that's where religious ends with us. There's no dogma, there's no these crazy rules, and etc. And so when I say psilocybin is 50% medicine, 50% integration, there's another medicine called Bufo, right? 5-MeO-DMT. I think Bufo is like 25% medicine and 75% integration, if not more. That's one where it's so fast and it hits you it's so much all at once. If it gave you all of that at once, your human mind would probably explode, right? And so what I found is if you honor the integration and you do these other practices, meditate, connect into it, but it keeps getting unlocked, like more and more and more of what you benefit from the experience. And like 6 months later, I'm like, whoa, like Bufo removed the fear of death from my life completely. And that took me 6 months to realize it. And so like, you know, that medicine is so incredibly beautiful and profound. And I also, so along with PSILO Temple, I have Grateful Shaman Collective is a religious organization that believes in the administration of toad venom as a medicine as well.
That's wonderful, because you're working with 4 medicines at the temple, right?
At the PSILO Temple, Sananga and psilocybin and tobacco.
And Bufo.
The Bufo is outside, is a separate.
Oh, okay. That's
so
great.
For the. Let me think about it before I say this. There's not much precedent for. So one of the ways that the government still restricts us from and impedes on our religious freedoms, but gets away with it, is by saying, oh well, you can't believe in more than one sacrament. So if you believe that ayahuasca and psilocybin are effective and you want to, you know, share both with the world, you can't do that. Like, you can have to pick one, which is complete bullshit. It's just like, who are you to tell me or to limit me to one medicine? Like, limit,
yeah. That's a
very similar things. And we know across the world that they can be worked together in conjunction to heal. I have 2 separate churches, and I don't. PSILO Temple does not use toad venom at this point, but I'll be pushing for that to be possible.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm going to just cut to our sponsors right now, but we will come back in and we can pick up with the medicine, but also some of these other things that you're working on too. Okay.
Cool.
Thank you so much, James.
Yep.
See you in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
Let's share PACE everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education. CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888. And grow on with CP.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Hello, welcome back. Welcome back, James. We were just talking about Bufo, and this is 5-MeO DMT. This is, the big one, really fast acting, and also one of the most masterful psychedelics in the realm of psychedelics. So I'll just pass over to you. You can share a bit about this medicine. I don't think we have had many people on talking about it at all, so it might be new for a lot of people here.
Yeah, and it's really special to me. I feel like way back when I was just starting to become a psychedelic explorer, psychonaut, I remember I was driving to Joshua Tree and we were going to do a mushroom experience, just me and my friend, and I was frantically trying to find 5-MeO because I was like, I wanted to try it. And I remember everyone I would talk to that I knew could get it or did the work, over and over and over again would go, hey, I don't really know where to get it, but I wouldn't suggest doing it just by yourself, and also it finds you. And I never understood. I'm like, it finds me. No, I'll find it, calling. The last person I call is an ayahuasca facilitator. And he was like, well, I know someone that is a practitioner of it. You would have to go to her. And I was like, all right, cool. And I called her and, she told me the price and we kind of agreed to do it. And I went and did it, and it profoundly changed my life the moment that it happened. And what it did was open up my whole world to possibilities that I didn't even imagine, such as running a psilocybin church. I was an executive at an accounting firm at that time, and miserable in that job, by the way. And so psychedelics liberated me from that as well. But the Bufo was opened me up, and then it was very clear, just like the way I was told by the mushrooms that I needed to pursue this route, the Bufo hit me right away and was like, this is something that you need to become. And so I spent a lot of time exploring it with myself, with practitioners. Most recently, I spent time with the Seri Indian tribe, which they don't like to be called the Seri Indian tribe, but that's what they're known by. They're actually the Comcac Nation, so Comcacc. And they live in the Sonoran Desert near Tiburon Island. And they actually live on a small reservation with no water, no fresh water, no sanitation. The Mexican government, they resisted the Mexican government so enough to where the Mexican government said, fine, we'll just stick you on a reservation and don't talk to our citizens, and we're not going to give you any resources. So they're a sovereign nation down there. But like many other indigenous tribes throughout the world, they were demonized and slaughtered and raped and by settlers, white settlers, Mexican settlers, whatever. So but if you go to the tribe, the medicine is so ingrained. They've been using it for thousands of years, and you see toads painted everywhere, and you see their jewelry. this is hand carved by ironwood by a Siri shaman. And they collect each of these little shells from the beach, and they make all this beautiful jewelry, and you'll see it everywhere, and I have so much more things that they create. What I've learned about Bufo is I get asked a lot to buy all kinds of things, and I'm like, I'm not a drug dealer, so but with Bufo, I always tell people, don't find it by yourself. Do not do it alone, because I will tell you that I've had many clients to where if I wasn't there, I'm pretty confident they would have asphyxiated themselves, because if you're so incapacitated, and a lot of times you purge. And so there's even been times where I've literally had this 100-pound woman, and I'm 180 pounds, I'm pretty strong. I had to use all my force to pry her up to get her to turn to throw up and not choke on it. And so I've had to, fingers in the mouth. And not to say that it's dangerous, but it's dangerous when you do it on your own, because you lose, you're gone from it. So the way there's a lot of good documentaries about it. Hamilton Morris, his show Hamilton's Pharmacopoeia is a great resource. There's some Vice documentaries and things like that to learn about this medicine, to learn about the conservation. So I work with a group down in Tucson that you can go to Tucson, and he'll bring you down to the tribe, and on the way you see the Bufo sanctuary, that they have a sanctuary where they're trying to conserve these toads, because out of all the toad species, the Bufo alvarius, or the Colorado River toad, or the Sonoran Desert toad, it's called many things, is the only toad that produces the bufotein and synthesizes it into 5-MeO-DMT. All the other toads produce it, but this is the only one that synthesizes it into 5-MeO-DMT. And there's evidence that the Yaqui people at least worshipped it because it would bring the rains, but there's thought that it used the medicine as well. But if you ask the Western model, it's until the 80s it wasn't discovered. But there's 10 generations of shamans that have been using it in Mexico. And so it's a beautiful medicine, but it's also not something that could ever be recreational. And it's they call it the God molecule, because I think for me, the first time I did it, I understood what life and death was in a different way. And I kind of just accepted it. And I like I said, when my whole childhood, I would have panic around death anxiety. And I would think it goes on forever and ever and ever. And then I would panic, and I would be up at night crying in my bed. And that even persisted as an adult. I would just avoid it, thinking about it. And then what that gave me was the complete absolution of that fear, which just that alone, if that's all it gave me, it has completely transformed my life. And it's given me so much more. And I've watched people do it and completely change their lives. And I got the benefit to do it in the ocean, being held by a shaman in Mexico, and it was a really beautiful experience. And so it's something that I really hold dear to my heart. And I say it sometimes, if I could only if I had to strip everything away, I'd do many different things, many hats. But being a Bufo shaman or practitioner is my number one passion, because the power that it has to transform and heal. And it's not for everybody. It's not everybody. That's why they say Bufo will call you. I don't promote it. I don't tell people that they should do it. Everyone knows that I'm a practitioner of it, and if they're ready for it, they'll come to me. And that's how I really believe in it. There's a push for synthetic versus toad venom. And so depending on where you source it, there's people that are treating the toads horribly. That doesn't have to be. It's a simple massage of their poison glands, and it sprays onto the glass, and they go their merry way. It doesn't hurt at all, especially compared to other things like combo or where it's a little more stressful for the animal. But what you find is people are just collecting them, throwing a bunch of bags, squeezing them until they bleed, and then just discarding them in a different place. It's a typical human, hey, let's take something sacred and just fucking destroy it out of selfishness. And so there's part of me, and Hamilton Morris talks about this, part of me doesn't want to promote it because I don't want the toads to disappear. But one thing that we'll be doing when we build our sanctuary up here is working on some toad conservation for sure. And I'm trying to look up my friend, remembering the name of my friend's company he works with, the troops, bringing troops down, veterans. He's a veteran himself. Healing Frontline Heroes, it's called, and they're based out of Tucson, and they work directly with the Siri tribe. So they take veterans, combat veterans, they bring them down to the tribe, they have a house set up where they get to stay, and then they learn about the culture, and they have their medicine experiences with Kambo and then Bufo, and in the Siri tradition. And so it's a lot of beautiful work.
Yeah, it sounds like it, and it's honestly so important. I work with Kambo, and it's the same kind of thing. You're actually really inspiring me, to get more involved. I feel I used to be, but because it's been so long since I was in the Amazon rainforest, there's become this distance. But you're reminding me, and it's interesting how you say that it's just it's a human thing to go after it selfishly and then discard it without any respect or reverence. But what I found when you're actually working with tribes people, there is so much reverence and respect. And even with Kambo, even though they do often are tying up this frog, it's still with the right person, more of a sexual or like sensual experience. Like what you're saying, it's like a massage. Like it's a release, and this is why it's so helpful in us in detoxing is because of this. Then it doesn't have to be a scary thing. It doesn't have to be like just discard this creature. I had a really hard time even wrapping my head or my mind around working with animal-based medicines, because my diet was all plant-based. I really, at that time, I had no idea why I was having this call, like you say. It didn't make any sense. I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I listened. I'm excited to see you. I think I'll come see you for Bufo. I went to 2 funerals in a week, this last week. So I've really been faced with that death. It's like, I'm okay with it. When I was younger, I lived I didn't care if I lived or died. I was so reckless with my time. I tried to, off myself a couple ways and failed. And then that sucks even more, But, here I am. I love my life now, and I have a business, clients, everybody I care about. My son means so much to me, my dog. And I'm watching, 2 people that I care about that influenced and molded me. They're just gone. I know that they're not gone. I know their energy's here, that their memories are here, all this because of the psychedelics. I was able to handle it, I think, because of that training. Like Terrence McKenna said, it's training. But at the same time, it's like I feel those same feelings come back again of how, what's going to happen if I go? How can I best live this life so that there is some sort of a legacy, even if that is ego. It's I know there is legacy. I have a son. He's going to live. How do I set him up, so that he's okay? What does he need to be sustainable? My mind's been literally going crazy. It's not always like me. I try to be more chill. But it comes up, death brings it up. And, what you're presenting here is that, it really gets rid of that fear of death. So maybe it helps with a lot of the anxiety around that too, making sure living this life to the fullest. And
yeah. And it's fun, it's funny because people are generally scared of it. And I mean, I've led hundreds of people through psilocybin journeys, and psilocybin has been harder for people than Bufo traditionally. But that's also an ode to what I said earlier. Generally, when you are called to Bufo, you're ready for it. And I think it's a little, and I really believe that mushrooms are the best fit for most people in terms of, and that's why
they're everywhere in the world.
Right, every continent. I know. I was looking at your post around what psychedelics exist naturally in areas, and it's always psilocybin. Yeah, stone ape theory.
Yeah, absolutely. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
So another one that you're working with is Sananga, and I know that when you're working with Kambo or Combo, Sapo, whatever you want to call it, Sananga is still really involved there, as is the tobacco, and you're using these with Bufo too. I was wondering if you could walk us through that a little bit, how it works in ceremony, what that looks like, and also why they all work together.
Right. And Sananga is. I got introduced to Sananga. So for what it's a shrub that is the roots and bark are shred up and soaked and extracted into this blend and they're created into eye drops. And so in the Amazon, traditionally they're used for hunting, like before hunting, and they say that what it does for your eyes is it allows you to see, like, even the camouflaged areas. It allows you to see movements much better in the dark jungle. Also, it's antimicrobial, antifungal, etc. Because think about it, you live in a jungle, like how much things are ready to infect your eyes, right? Like so much. And so it's also really cleansing. Like I even had a sty once, and I did Sananga, and it cleared up like within one day, which I've never experienced before. And so what it is in terms of how I use it in terms of ceremony. When I was introduced to it, I was given hape, and I was blowing hape in both nostrils, one of those, like and I was like, just dealing with that, like, all right, here we go. And then all of a sudden, the shaman comes over, lays me down like this, opens up my eyelids, and drops the Sananga in. I didn't know it was coming, but I did once I like opened my eyes. I was like, oh shit, and it wasn't as bad as I was scared that it was going to be, but it's intense, right? It burns. Yeah. It burns.
It doesn't last very long, but it is intense. Yeah.
It doesn't last long, but you'll like wish it was over.
It feels like forever.
You're like, I do it to myself too. It's so hard to dose yourself.
Me too.
Like, know what's coming, but then when you do, you're like, why did I do that? But when it's beautiful, because especially before a medicine experience, like this weekend I had a psilocybin experience, and we did it before. I can't tell you how many times I called on that Sananga experience just earlier in the night to help that person through something they were going through that was challenging. And so the Sananga, like with many other things, combo, hape, it puts us into discomfort and forces us to go to deal with it. And so our first reaction is rub my eyes, get this out of me, and then we'll sit up and we'll be like, no, and we'll curl up in a ball, and we'll try to just get it out with like whatever. But when it's beautiful, when I'm just sitting there, I let you go through that, and I'm like, all right, are you ready to breathe? Okay, breathe. And we do some breathing. 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, right? Box breathing. You can do 5 or 6 or whatever, and then all of a sudden the focus becomes on the breath and the pain reduces. It doesn't go away completely, but the pain is no longer the focus.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of lessons there. It's this, like, what we focus on is stronger, right? The more we focus on the pain, the more we're going to feel the pain. We can use our breath to get through difficult situations, which, again, our culture has been very lost with our connection to our breath. Many of us have a reverse breath pattern where we breathe from the top of our lungs and we never use diaphragmatic breathing. When we breathe from our diaphragms, we're getting so much more efficient with the oxygen that we're intaking and the breathing pattern specifically. So what the Sananga also does is it's like a spiritual cleanser. Right? This is an ancient medicine and so I find that those who elect to do the Sananga, because I give them a choice, sometimes I don't want to, but I strongly encourage them to do it. Those that do the Sananga tend to have drop into better experiences, maybe a little more visual, maybe a little more clear, a little more feel it a little better. And because it's this idea of, like, the same idea when they say, like, do 2 nights of ayahuasca or 3 nights of ayahuasca your first time. It's like decalcifying your pineal gland, or decalcifying your spirit, your soul, the veil that separates us from the other dimensions. And so, yeah, I think it works similar in the way combo works in terms of cleansing your soul. And then it also can improve your vision. And I think I remember you saying that, you felt that improve your vision, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how
no glasses, no contacts.
Right. And I used you as the example on Saturday when I was telling the girl, the client that I had, and I was like, my friend out in Canada, like, just it helped her vision. So that helps some people sometimes, because I'm like, trying to convince you to get paper cuts in your eyes. But
it hurts. It doesn't cut your eyes or anything, but it might feel like
that. Right.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah, but it is good.
Temporary.
It is temporary. It helps you realize that nothing lasts, and that I personally feel lighter, and I feel like it's pre-cleanse to the cleanse when I give it to people. Not a lot of people say no to me for it, to be honest, because they're scared of it, or I didn't always do the best. Well, there's going to be more medicines. They come for Cambo. It's like, well, if I have everything, then I'm going to offer it, but I don't always give it all. I have a form and things now that lays it out a little better, but I didn't always have that, so I got a lot of no's, and I think it's hard to explain. It sounds scary, but dropping something into your eye that's going to cause a lot of pain, but the truth is, those who have worked with it before, that's where they get the real emotional purge, and they feel more like their chakras have completely opened up, like that visualization from what was that movie, the Avatar, the Airbender one, where they go through the chakras. Like, that's what it's like. It cleanses everything out. All those emotional blockages are just gone. I know we wanted to talk a little bit about the integration too. What can you share about the integration with Bufo, with mushrooms, your practice there?
Right. And with overall, when I first found plant medicine, and I watched this happen with a lot of people, and I think it's maybe just part of our process, but I try to kind of shortcut that process so people don't have to go through the amount of pain that I went through. Because when I first found ayahuasca, I did the ceremony and I felt amazing, and I came home and things were a little different, and then all of a sudden, like the next day, I crashed and I felt depressed, and then I would feel really sensitive and I would feel down and up. I didn't realize I was just so open, right, and
sensitive to it all. Yeah.
Right. And so I that buzz, the glow lasted for a little while, and then I was starting to slip back into my same old ways and feeling bad again. I'm like, all right, I guess I need more ayahuasca. And I would go do another one, and then the same thing. And then I would go do another one, and then the same thing. And I got to number 7, number 6, ayahuasca told me that, literally gave me this message, this is the second time we've given you the same information and you didn't do anything with it, so don't come again. And I was like, oh, okay, and then my friend calls me and he's like, hey, I'm doing my first ever ayahuasca ceremony as a facilitator. I want to invite my friends and experienced people. And I was like, all right, I'll come do it, to support you. And I didn't feel called to it at all. And she had me, the ayahuasca I'm referring to, had me sick for 2 nights in a row. No hallucination, no good feelings, no nothing. Just laying there sick, thinking about integration. And those were some most valuable ayahuasca experience. That's one of the most valuable ayahuasca experiences I ever had, because I stopped doing medicine and I started focus on what this integration thing is. And so what it is, in short, is when you do a psychedelic experience, it's generally a catalyst for change. Stop drinking, get off medication, or bring me out of a depression, help me process grief. It shows you how to heal yourself. And then it relies on you to heal yourself. It doesn't do it for you. And so what does integration look like? Well, it's community, right? That's why we have our integration meetings, like our Monday night meeting, and the online stuff. It's sharing your experience with others and in a safe space. It's honoring the things that ayahuasca tells you, or psilocybin tells you, or Bufo tells you, honoring the change of perspectives. And so we talk a lot about having an intention. And I see people get so hung up on having the right intention or what it is. And it's all, most of the questions they ask, is this the right intention? Is this a good intention? And finally, I was like, shift your perspective to intentional use, not necessarily having this thing that you have to accomplish in this ceremony. What I have my people doing, we don't set intentions anymore. There's questions. If you have questions that you want answered, write them down in your notebook and, put your notebook to the side. But when we let go of having an intention, but we're still intentionally using it, right? Coming to ceremony, good set and setting, good medicine, we're so much less limited by our own thoughts on what we need. Think about it. I'm walking in with this intention. Hey, mushrooms, I need to heal this. Thanks. Mushrooms are like, okay, do you want us to focus on that, or do you want us to give you what you really need? And so
they'll always give you what you really need, and then people end up disappointed because their expectations aren't met.
Right. I didn't get this grand message about my father's death from God.
Reach peak spirituality.
Right.
Like, but I have somebody who calls me up on that. I'm like, no, that's
right.
I can't get it yet.
Yeah, and it's one of these things where it's well intentioned, but it gets like repeated by people that aren't very experienced in it a lot, and it's just like, oh, you have to have an intention, and it might be someone who's done their ceremony once or something, right? So what I found is I watched people struggle with this expectation of an intention and not getting it, and it takes away so much from their journey. And so what we focus on is the intention going into these ceremonies is, let me accept and be open to what the medicine gives me and know that I'm safe in coming back so I can explore it freely. Beautiful intention. And that's where I try to encourage people to focus on. And so then coming out of it, like, all right, we have a integration session, an hour session that's included in your session. And we talk through like, all right, what came up for you? And then as it comes up, I'm a coach. I'm a certified leadership coach. I worked as an executive coach for a decade. And so I blend that into let's create an action plan. Let's create a SMART goal around it. Like, it doesn't have to be hippy dippy all the time. Like, we can use SMART goals in psychedelics for sure. SMART goals is how you get it done. And then how are you? And then instilling accountability, personal accountability, but peer accountability too. And so all of that is integration. It's taking the medicine, having this attitude of less medicine, more integration. Taking the medicine, having big experiences is beautiful, but microdosing and meditating and exercising and watching your food and maintaining relationships are all part of integrating that into your life. And then something beautiful happens. When you do that work, the next time you go into a psychedelic experience, you're way more open and free to experience the medicine. And that's when people generally have visuals or really profound experiences. The first ones are these struggles of like, am I supposed to be feeling this? I'm feeling sick. Well, that's because it's working out all this conditioning and years of, whatever. And so, the integration to me became the most important thing. And when I shifted into that thought process, everything changed in my psychedelic, from what I benefited from psychedelics, because you're really missing out on half of it if you're not.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's honestly so important. I know we only have a bit of time left here, so I'm just going to pass it up to you for the next 5-7 minutes here. You can share what it is that what you're working on now, with PSILO Temple, with the Grateful Shaman, with sound bowl healing, all of it.
Yeah, thank you. And so you talked about chakras earlier, and what I learned was that sound healing, specifically crystal bowls, have this incredible ability, and they're tuned to the chakras, right? And so have this incredible ability to clear blockages. And I've done, in Eugene, we're just about coming up on our 90th sound bath since 2021. And in each of those, they've all been different, but in each of those, there's been at least one, if not more people who have had relief from insomnia, chronic pain, depression, anxiety. There's been relationships intimate relationships and friendships that have grown from it. And so from the beginning of time, as humans in shamanic tribes, we gathered around sound. And that's why sound is the major tenet of what we're doing, and shamanism. And so it's interesting because sometimes I've had experiences with shamanism especially, but also with sound healing, that have been just as, if not more profound than experiences with medicine, because we're tapping into the same thing. We're tapping into the healing collective energy. And so so I consider myself a coach, right? I'm trained as a coach, and I've shifted into integration coaching. So if someone needs support, not only in psychedelic experiences with me, if they do it with me, I have a reduced special rate because I want to promote integration. And spending, I always require 3 sessions of integration coaching so we can really just get that foundation and get it integrated. But also, if people are doing their own experiences and don't need a guide, like I'm there to provide that support as well. And my coaching program, so it's a coaching program, but it applies to a few different ways. So it's an executive. I have a version that's an executive level coaching experience. So this is like CEOs, C-suite, VPs, director level managers, any leadership positions in organizations. And it combines multiple plant medicine experiences where we work our way through it. So it's my psychology background where we do assessment. We create a picture of you. Then we have plant medicine experience. And then we have you create your own mission statement for your own life. Like, what's your purpose? What are you doing? How are you going to fulfill it? Then we do more medicine. Then we do coaching, integration, more medicine, coaching, integration. There's a time where I send you off on your own for this vision quest type journey. And there's also a similar version of it for addiction. So if you're struggling with addiction, if you know someone's struggling with addiction, like I am so confident in this addiction program that I have. It's the missing piece to sobriety, plant medicine. And I've combined all of that: modern psychology, ancient practices, ancient studies, music, medicine, and it's profoundly healing, because what we're doing is we're curing, and this is a hot word for people in recovery. We are fucking curing your addictions. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can curse on you.
It's great, go for it.
We're curing addiction. Like, a switch flipped for me. It was like, no, obviously, it's not the substance. It's what we're medicating and treating. So if we heal that, then the substances don't bother us. And that's not to say like, oh, I'm cured from addiction, let me go drink. Because when you're cured from your addiction, you're not going to want to go drink.
No.
That doesn't vibe with what you're... And we talk about like, you're vibrating up here now. Alcohol vibrates down here. Like heroin vibrates down here. That shuts you down. And so it's a really beautiful process for me. My brother overdosed on heroin when he was 19. I struggled with heroin and addiction very badly, and I've watched a lot of friends overdose and die and go to prison. And for me, addiction is very, very close to my heart. And I'm like, I feel like I'm supposed to be working with addiction just based on my history and my incredible traumas and things that I've gone through with that. And I think that's what, for me, my approach is. I've had a really hard life as a child, with abuse and sexual abuse and jails and institutions and overdoses and deaths and all that stuff. But what I look at that as is training. I look at it for training for where I'm at now. And not only to help other people, but for myself. Because how do we train the Navy SEALs here in this country? The top of the top, well, Delta Force might argue, but the top of the top people, right? We put them through hell. We beat the shit out of them. We have them holding logs for 6 hours in ice cold water. Well, when we do ice baths, I do cold shower every morning. That's training my discipline. That's me doing something every day that I don't want to do, is making my discipline and my willpower stronger. Willpower is a muscle. It starts out in the beginning and it ends, but it dwindles as the day goes by. So what are you doing to strengthen that as well is really important. And so, yeah, I think PSILO Temple. You go to PsiloTemple.com. We have a membership option. It's $44 for the year, and that gets you a training around how to use psilocybin as a quote-unquote sacrament, which means how to use it intentionally. And that also includes a certificate, and then some other things that will be coming soon. And then there's obviously there's a recurring monthly option. I don't feel like there's a need to say like, oh, you must pay this level, or this level gets this level gets that. My thing is, if you believe in what we're doing, come, and if you can afford it, like if you're inspired to contribute on a monthly basis, contribute on our events, like this is your movement. This isn't me. This is why I opened a non-for-profit religious organization. I can't profit off of this. Like, I can profit off a service center. I have no interest in that. I want people to be able to build a relationship with this medicine. This medicine should not be for sale in that way. Obviously, we need to be paid for our time. There's a lot of really skilled coaches and including you. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you too, James. This is such a pleasure. We'll have to do it again for sure.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, talk
Bye.
to you soon.
Hello and welcome to the Integration Station. I'm MichaudAshley, your host, here with a special guest, Heather Smith. And we just connected on this new account.
PsiloTemple.
PSILO.
Yes, PSILO Temple. James, the creator, brought me on, and I'm so honored by his trust in me to be a part of this absolutely monumental community that we are trying to create, that we want to create. We have
It's happening.
It's happening. He has created it. James is like 999.9% of PsiloTemple. Please know when I say this, I am not looking for sympathy or anything, but I grew up with no friends. I've had a very isolated life. I went in search of that. And long before I met James and met our group, I did research on microdosing of LSD on my own. Read research papers because the Silicon Valley has been dosing their employees for years, if not decades, to get better work, more creative work out of it. I do have a motive. I want to spread kindness. I want to spread love. I want to show people you can suffer. The suffering is for a reason. If you do not suffer through change, you're not going to change. There's a saying that says crisis causes change and change causes crisis. I've died. I've almost died. I've attempted suicide many times. I used to joke that I am such a friggin' failure that I can't even kill myself right. Okay to laugh at that, people. Now I look back and it's like, you know what? Everything I went through, everything brought me to this moment right here with you, Ashley. Everything. My passion is to let people know, to heal those that are willing to do the work, and let them know you can come out the other side of trauma, of addiction, of the pain and the loneliness. When I took responsibility for my actions, for my life, for my choices, didn't blame it on my trauma, on this bad boyfriend, on this abuse, on this atrocity that was done against me, when I was like, wait, I made these choices in the moment. I allowed that person, that situation to happen. We have absolute control of our lives. Our choices, everything in life is a choice, whether it feels like it or not. It's how we deal with those choices that we make determine what we do. I chose to take the information that was given to me by my parents, my ancestors, my grandmas, my whatever, and internalize it and believe it.
Yeah, there's a book I absolutely love about this. It's Touching Spirit Bear. And the guy, Ben, who wrote it, he actually does talks in schools about bullying. And this book, really opened my mind and my heart completely. It was like a psychedelic trip in itself, because he walks you through each character, which are actually all based off of himself. But each character has its true identity and its purpose and its story. But they were all inspired by different archetypes that we all have, the bully and the bullied, and how that's passed over and how it cycles, much like our breath. And he taps into these old native ways of dealing with problem children, of the community actually coming together and developing a plan of action for this child. Versus, what happens now, where you go to juvie and jail when you're older, and
the punitive system that we have for acting out, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, and some of the tools that came along in this book were really simple and natural, in that every day the guy did a cold plunge. He had to in going through this transformation of touching Spirit Bear, he would do a cold plunge every day as part of his routine into a pond, and then he'd walk up a hill with a stone that he grabs from the bottom, and then when he gets to the top, he rolls it down, releasing his anger for the day, and then he goes to work. And it was just this really powerful thing. But we can all create these kind of rituals in our lives. It doesn't have to be exactly that, but it's just such a powerful story. It's very it was so influential for me. It's one I recommend to a lot of people. And the guy does talks. He literally raised a bear. This guy is really cool. And the book is called Touching Spirit Bear.
Facing your fears, facing what is in front of you. And I know fear has held me back. And I think it's one of the greatest, it can either be the greatest motivator or the greatest inhibitor of success. Fear. So what is more fearing than a 900-pound bear, grown bear, standing straight up? But he has a bear that is his partner, that is his child.
Great. Yeah. And what is, you said you have this strong connection with animals. I'm curious a little bit about yourself. This is the website here.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes.
And it's all about bullying. Yeah, it's great. He did a lot of stuff for kids. But for an adult, I've read this book over and over as an adult. It's beautiful. And there he is with his actual bear.
Yeah.
But, have you ever done druid card readings? There. I wonder if we'll have to do it sometime. I'll send you a time we can book out, and I'll do a druid card reading for you. I'd love to see what it pulls up.
Jesus's message has been stomped on just as bad as any street drug out there. I think that's how you can compare religion. has been stomped on and poisoned just as bad as meth, heroin, whatever other drug is out there. It has absolutely been diluted and used to fit somebody's ulterior motive. It was used to control us. And when I would hear the preacher as a child and then watch the parishioners afterwards and watch that their words and their actions did not align, I couldn't deal with it. And I refused to go to church after that. Broke my mother's heart. So while I was absolutely aware of a spirit world, absolutely, I've lived in haunted houses, and this is before I was into everything I'm into now, right? Divination. I had no clue about divination. Had no clue about what being an empath was. I had no clue on anything. So all this spirituality, I had this knowledge, but I thought I was crazy. It wasn't until recently that I'm not crazy. I'm ancient. I'm ancient. I'm a starseed. That's where my knowledge came from. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Doesn't matter if Ram Dass is saying that. It doesn't matter if Jesus Christ is saying that. We have to come together. We have
like the Beatles.
Yes. We have to get there right now. Over me. All right. I do that too. I do that all the time. And then usually it's like old school music. I reference Bufo, crack that whip. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. The person I just talked to probably has no idea what I meant by that reference. To have an intention, yet not an expectation, because the medicine will bring you what you need. So you can go into a ceremony, a one-on-one, or on your couch and ask, Spirit, at first I felt like this was a cop-out intention, but it is always my most common go-to intention, except for a story I'll be sharing, is, Spirit, show me what I need to know. Mushrooms showed me I'm okay. I am what I always thought I am, which is different, not special, not separate, just different. That's when I became free of addiction, free of not being who I am, free to allow myself to be who I am, and damn the consequences.
Listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab-tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.